I found the note in my mailbox on a cold October morning. No stamp. No address. Just my name, Evan, written in thick, red ink. Inside was a single line. You're not the first. You're the last. I stared at it for a long time, pretending it was some prank. But something about the weight of the envelope, the precision of the handwriting, it felt surgical. I took it inside, placed it on the kitchen counter, and tried to ignore it. But that's when I noticed something worse. The smell. It was faint, but sharp, like bleach mixed with rust. I followed it, heart pounding, to the basement door. I hadn't opened that room in months. I barely even looked at it. But today, something told me I had to. When I opened it, a wave of cold air hit my face. I flipped the light switch, and saw the second message. Written in perfect lines on the concrete floor, in something dark and dried. 10 lives. 10 truths. One left to unbind. I dropped the envelope. Backed away. Ran outside, breath fogging in the morning air. It didn't make sense. I was no one. Just a substitute high school teacher. I didn't have enemies. I didn't keep secrets. Or, maybe I did. That night, I started digging. I remembered a case from a few months ago. A woman in Cleveland found murdered, her mouth sewn shut. Before that, a college kid in Vermont, drowned in a locked room. Then a barista in Chicago, poisoned by her own coffee. 10 deaths. All ruled unrelated. But I found the thread. Each victim had one thing in common. They'd all been students at Graybridge College between 2009 and 2012. So had I. I hadn't spoken to anyone from those years in over a decade. I barely remembered most of them. But someone hadn't forgotten. And now they were killing us. One by one. And I was next. I didn't sleep that night. The words from the note looped in my head like a cursed melody. You're not the first. You're the last. I sat in my living room surrounded by old yearbooks, digital folders, and the flickering light of my laptop screen. Pages from the past I had tried to forget stared back at me, photos of classmates, event flyers, forgotten emails, fragments of who I used to be. Graybridge College. I hadn't set foot on that campus since graduation. I had left it behind the moment I walked across that stage, diploma in hand, heart full of secrets. Now it was all coming back. I started compiling a list of names. People I remembered from those years, especially the ones who'd kept a low profile. I cross-referenced them with news articles, obituaries, and social media. 10 were dead. And not just dead, symbolically killed. Like each one had been executed in a way that reflected something deeper. Shame, silence, betrayal. It wasn't random. It was thematic. I recognized 3 of the names instantly. Julia Maris, she had led the protest after a professor got fired for sexual misconduct. She was found drowned in her bathtub. Her lungs filled with ink. Brian Halter, caught selling exams senior year. Found hanging in a university lecture hall with fake test papers stapled to his chest. Maya Tanaka, she and I had shared a class in comparative ethics. She was found with her tongue removed. No sign of struggle. Each death mirrored some part of their story. Each death felt like a statement. So what part of me was the killer targeting? What was my statement? I remembered something I hadn't thought about in years. The Graybridge Ethics Tribunal. A secret committee. Only 10 of us knew it existed. We called ourselves the Circle. It was supposed to be a private thing, a way for the most promising students in the ethics department to explore real-world scenarios. But it got out of control. We judged classmates. Wrote anonymous reviews that sometimes led to expulsions, dropped scholarships, and destroyed reputations. We told ourselves we were protecting integrity. But really, we were playing gods. 10 of us. Now 9 were dead. And I was the 11th. I wasn't supposed to be on that list. Because I left the Circle. I walked out after the last case. After what we did to that student. Jonas Blake. Quiet. Strange. always sitting in the back. He got accused of hacking into grade records, though we never proved it. Still, we voted. 8 said guilty. I abstained. Only 1 said no. Jonas vanished a week later. No charges. No farewell. Just gone. I never forgot his eyes the day he left the classroom. He looked at each of us, then at me. He knew. Could it be him? Could Jonas be the one killing us? I tried finding anything about him, socials, resumes, alumni records. Nothing. It was like he'd been erased. Then I got the second envelope. No writing on this one. Inside, a photograph. Blurry. Black and white. A college hallway. An open locker. And on the inside of the door, my name, written in blood-red letters. Below it, tomorrow. 3:17 p.m. That was the exact time my last class ended. Someone was watching me. Someone wanted me to know. When 3:17 came the next day, I didn't go home. I waited in the parking lot of the school. Nothing. No one. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Courage is not hiding. It's confessing. Attached was a GPS pin. Location, an abandoned community center downtown. The one they closed after the fire 10 years ago. I had 2 options. Call the cops. Or end it myself. I grabbed my coat, slid the knife from my kitchen drawer into my back pocket, and drove. The place was a skeleton of its former self. Boards on the windows. Rust on the chain-link gate. I climbed over, heart pounding like a war drum. Inside, the halls were dark. Burned paint peeled from the walls. The floor was cracked with black mold. In the main auditorium, I saw it. Photos. Dozens of them. Pinned across the walls. All 10 victims. And me, in the center. Under my photo, someone had written. You watched. You did nothing. Now it's your turn. I turned and saw someone standing in the far corner. Face shadowed. Still. Jonas. I called. No answer. Then he stepped into the light. And it wasn't Jonas. It was someone else. Someone I never expected. He stepped forward slowly, and the dim, dust-choked light from the broken window revealed his face. Nathan Crowley. My old roommate. I hadn't thought of him in years. Nathan was the quiet one. Brilliant, a bit of a loner. He was never part of the circle, but he knew about it. That much I remember clearly now. He lived across from our meeting room in the dorms. I always wondered how much he heard through those thin walls. Now he was standing in front of me, face thin and unreadable, like a man who had worn grief like armor for too long. I took a step back. You. He tilted his head, voice calm. You always remembered Jonas. But you forgot everyone else. What are you talking about? I asked. He nodded toward the wall of photos. You all thought Jonas was the only one you hurt. But you never asked why he got accused. Who planted the story? Who twisted the details? Do you even remember? I didn't, I stammered. No, Evan, he said. You didn't act. You let it happen. And it wasn't just him. He reached into his coat and pulled out a worn notebook, black, thin, full of ink-stained pages. He tossed it at my feet. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside were records of everything, names, dates, actions. All 10 of us. What we did. Who we silenced. How we manipulated student hearings behind the scenes. Even those we never voted on directly, but were harmed through rumor, pressure, and fear. And Nathan, he had been keeping score. I wasn't supposed to be here, he said. I wasn't part of your elite group. I wasn't chosen. But I watched it all. My sister. You remember her? Abigail Crowley. You got her expelled for plagiarism she didn't commit. I remembered. Abigail was in my writing class. She was brilliant. quoted poets from memory, and had a nervous smile. There had been whispers of her stealing lines from published works. We pushed the complaint through anonymously. She was gone within 2 weeks. I found her, Nathan continued. 3 months after she left. Hanging in our garage. I closed my eyes. He wasn't lying. You turned your secrets into a game, he said, voice trembling now. And I turned your game into judgment. I looked up, finally seeing him not as the killer, but as the reflection of all we'd buried. I'm sorry, I whispered. I should have stopped it. I should have stopped myself. He nodded, like he'd been waiting for that. You're the only one who ever came back. Whoever asked why. I didn't speak. And he didn't kill me. Instead, he pointed toward the back exit. You walk out of here. You carry it. Every day. Like I do. I left the center in silence. That night, I burned the note. The envelope. Everything. Except for the notebook. I kept that. Because sometimes surviving isn't justice. It's penance. Some people think survival is the end of the story. It's not. Survival is just the beginning of a new kind of punishment. After that night at the community center, I tried to return to normal. I taught my classes. I drank my coffee. I smiled at the front desk lady like I always did. But nothing felt real anymore. Every time I looked at a student's face, I saw ghosts. I saw Abigail Crowley, wide-eyed, hopeful, scribbling poetry into her notebook before we ripped her world apart. I saw Jonas Blake, silent in the back row, watching us with that quiet knowing. I saw my brother's old face too, though he had nothing to do with Greybridge. Just a reminder that innocence could die from 1,000 little cuts. And then there was Nathan. I kept thinking about his final words. You walk out of here. You carry it. I did. Every day. But carrying something and doing something about it. Those are different weights. I went back to the notebook. Not once. Not twice. Every night. It became my ritual. Like opening an old wound to remind yourself it's still there. There was one name in it I hadn't noticed the first time, Professor Lewin Grant. Our faculty advisor. The one who encouraged us to form the circle. The one who gave us access to disciplinary files. The one who always said, real ethics isn't about rules. It's about action. He never got blamed. Not once. He wasn't dead either. I looked him up. Tenured now. Ivy League. Writes books about justice and moral leadership. The world still sees him as a philosopher. A thinker. But we knew the truth. He built the machine. We just fed it. And now he was free. Successful. I wanted to let it go. I tried. But the notebook wouldn't let me. So I booked a flight. Cambridge, Massachusetts. The air there was colder than I remembered. Crisper. Like everything had sharper edges. I waited outside his lecture hall, notebook in hand. He walked out like nothing had changed in 12 years. Older, grayer, but the same sharp eyes. He paused when he saw me. Evan. Good God. It's been years. He smiled. Invited me to lunch. Said he was glad to see one of his brightest. I didn't smile back. I placed the notebook between us on the table. He opened it. He froze. Didn't speak for almost a full minute. Then he said something that chilled me more than anything Nathan had said. I thought you all knew what you were doing. He meant it. Like he wasn't the architect, just the observer. Like we had been the ones holding the hammer. I stood. You don't get to hide in philosophy, I said. Not anymore. He watched me walk away. And maybe for the first time, he looked afraid. I mailed a copy of the notebook to the university board. Anonymous. Maybe they'd ignore it. Maybe they'd bury it like they buried everything else. But I didn't need justice to be public. I needed it to be real. Zoya once said something to me in another life. You can't erase blood. but you can stop the next cut. I finally understood that now. I left Graybridge behind, for real this time. But not the memory. That I carry. Months passed. I moved to a different state. A quieter job. A smaller apartment. Fewer people. Fewer memories. But even silence has echoes. The notebook stayed with me, hidden in the drawer next to my bed. I never opened it again. I didn't need to. Every name, every secret was already carved into me. I thought telling the truth, owning my past, would bring peace. It didn't. It brought something else. Clarity. I stopped pretending I was innocent. Stopped telling myself that not acting was the same as not guilty. Because the truth isn't clean. It's not a courtroom verdict or a newspaper headline. The truth is what you live with. Every day. Every night. One evening, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. The handwriting was Nathan's. He resigned. The board covered it, but he's gone. That's something. I'm not finished, Evan. But I hope you are. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't know where he was. Or what he planned to do next. But I hoped, deep down, that his war was over. Mine was. Because I had chosen something different. Not revenge. Not guilt. Responsibility. I started writing. Not just in journals. I wrote letters. To the families of the victims. Not to confess. That would have been selfish. I wrote to remember them. To tell them what their sons and daughters were like in their best moments. What they laughed at. What they were brilliant at. What the world lost when it lost them. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I didn't deserve it. But maybe, just maybe, it mattered that someone still remembered them as more than a name in an investigation file. I also started a class. Small. Private. Weekly. It wasn't about philosophy. It was about accountability. I called it the 11th. 10 chairs for students. One empty. Always empty. I told them, this chair stays open. For the person who couldn't speak up. For the one who carried the truth too long. For the one we lost before we knew what we were part of. I never mentioned Nathan. Or Abigail. Or Jonas. But they were always in the room. And every time I taught that class, I felt something inside me stitch back together. Not perfectly. But enough. I still dream sometimes. About that hallway at Graybridge. The one where our secrets lived behind every door. Sometimes in the dream, I walk past those doors. Sometimes I open one. And sometimes, someone is waiting on the other side. But I never run. Not anymore. Because I'm not afraid of the truth. I'm afraid of forgetting it.